Pasternak is the final hope. Stopped by Grubauer.
Pain. That is all I feel here as a Boston Bruins fan. Pain. My God. 3 straight games they lose in overtime or in a shootout. Their last 6 games have gone into extras. The Bruins need to find a way to not make these games go to overtime. Yes, they're getting a point. I understand it. You're like, stop complaining. But this has been a struggle for the Bruins this year. Record-wise, they're one of the worst teams in the NHL in overtime with a record of 8-0-14. And you could argue they're tied for most overtime games with the New York Islanders at 22. Both of them have a record of 8-0-14. But it is frustrating to watch them have very good surges and then completely collapse at the end. It's the way in which the Bruins are losing these games is the most frustrating part, because they'll have a lead and then they'll blow it. Maybe they score a late goal to go up 1, but then the other team, usually with less than 2 minutes left in regulation, will score to tie the game and send it to OT. Now, you could argue last night was a different scenario when a shot goes off Charlie Coyle and in and he ties the game to take it to overtime. But having this many overtime games and struggling to close them out, I don't think that's a really great sign of things to come. The Bruins are still atop of the Atlantic Division with the Florida Panthers right on their heels. They have a great record, and teams do go through these ups and downs in the season. So maybe this is just a cold streak, and at least they're getting points out of it. But it is just infuriating to see them lit games slip away from them, or even in games where they win, like the Edmonton Oilers, where they're up a few goals. The Oilers forced an overtime. The Bees get the win, but it shouldn't have been that exciting. It just shouldn't have been. This is why I made a video a few days ago about the Boston Bruins and my honest opinion on them. I think they're a very good team, but I'm not sure if they're good enough to make a deep run and ultimately win a Stanley Cup. So what are the options here for the Boston Bruins? Should they make a trade? Should they just stay pat? This is how I look at it. Going into this season, did not expect the Bruins to be this good. I'd be lying right to your face if I thought that they'd be at the top of the Atlantic this late in the season and be one of the better teams record-wise in the NHL. You can go in the back catalog. I thought they'd be a wild card team at best with the major losses of Bergeron and Krejci. So they have outperformed all of my expectations. So I'm definitely not mad with how they played this season. Frustrated a bit, but not furious. When I look at it, could they add a piece? Sure. But they can't give up any futures. You can't give up Patra. You can't give up Lori. You can't give up anything substantial. You can't give up any future assets. Some people have talked about trading another first-round pick. I think that's just foolhardy at this point. If the Bruins are going to make a deal, and if they're going to add another piece, I know Hannafin's been tied for the Bruins for years at this point. I know they are talking about trying to bring in another forward, most likely a center. The only way that would make sense is if you deal expiring contracts like Grzelcyk or Forbort, or ultimately deal Ullmark, who has a stipulation of 16 teams he will not allow himself to be traded to. I mean, it would make sense. You deal Ullmark and you maybe get a solid top 6 player, or in a package you get Hannafin. But the Bruins need to retain assets, and if anything, this might be an unpopular opinion, I say they should trade expiring contracts for future draft picks. Maybe that's not the sexy thing to do, but the Bruins have given up quite a bit of the cupboard to win last season. And you know you're not going to retain some of these guys, even if you get like a 3rd or 4th round, like something, so you can kind of stockpile draft picks and maybe you move up around. I don't know. I think it's probably in their best interest to stay pat. I don't believe any crazy trade's going to happen for the Bruins. They're going to have a lot of cap space next season to allure some top-end players to Boston. But right now, I think this is the team the Bruins are stuck with until next year. It might be frustrating. It might make you want to throw your controller through a TV, but let's keep things in perspective. Not many people expected the Bruins to be this great this season, and I'm just glad they're a very solid team. Be smart. Keep your future assets unless you get a crazy player in return. And hey, maybe the Bruins get hot and they can go on a deep run. Nobody expected the 2011 Bruins to do what they did. And hell, they won a Stanley Cup. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you believe the Boston Bruins should do? I'm Captain Paul. I'll see you in the next one.